There is always beauty, even in the depths of ugliness, even in the depths of defeat. Your song raises us all above this realm of earthly flesh, for we are angels and warriors in equal part. Our devotion to our Emperor and our Gene Father is a paragon to which the citizens of the Imperium have long aspired. Now we stand upon the brink of death. This will not change. I say, let us not go into the long silences of history, but stride forward into legend. Commander Dante, Chapter Master of the Blood Angels, from The Devastation of Baal, by Guy Haley. The Blood Angels were the 9th Legion of the original Space Marines created by the Emperor of Mankind during the time of the Great Crusade, crafted from the gene seed of their chapter Primarch, Sanguinius. They are known both for their appreciation of beauty and the arts, as well as their savage abandon in battle. The Blood Angels are one of the most highly respected and feared chapters of Space Marines in the Imperium. And while they remain one of the most fiercely loyal Space Marine chapters, they carry with them a dark secret, known by very few outside of the chapter, a genetic flaw in their gene seed that the leaders of the chapter work tirelessly to correct, searching the galaxy for a cure while hiding the truths of the flaw from those outside of the chapter's number. The 9th Legion, originally known as the Revenant Legion, was born from the gene seed of the Primarch Sanguinius. During the early days of the Great Crusade, the Emperor crafted these legions from the gene seed of his sons, genetically engineered super soldiers of almost godlike power, known as the Primarchs. The gods of chaos would seek to foil the Emperor's plan of expansion and uniting humanity under the banner of the Imperium, and scattered the Primarchs, who were still infants at the time, across the galaxy. The Primarch Sanguinius landed on the radiation-soaked moon of the planet Baal, known as Baal Secundus. Unlike his other brother Primarchs, Sanguinius stood apart from them in physical appearance due to his angel-like wings. This, along with his noble stature and charisma, would garner him the nickname the Angel. Sanguinius was adopted by the tribe of humans known simply as the Blood. While living amongst his tribe, Sanguinius led the Blood to victory over the mutant hordes of Baal, despite being vastly outnumbered. Sanguinius would come to be worshipped as a god among the people of Baal Secundus. Eventually, the Emperor of Mankind found his lost son, and Sanguinius agreed to join his father in forging his Imperium of Man. Sanguinius was eventually brought before and united with his sons, the Revenant Legion. Now, hours could be devoted to the marvels and tales of Sanguinius and his accomplishments. He was truly beloved by most of his brothers, Primarchs, and was highly revered amongst them all. Even Horus Lupercal, after being named the War Master during the Great Crusade, would later reflect that the tasking should have been given to Sanguinius. His charisma was only outdone by his tactical ability and his ferocity as a warrior. But among his many gifts dwelled within him a furious rage, one that would carry over into the Marines created through his bloodline. The early days of the Great Crusade saw the legions of Space Marines recruited from Terran-born humans with the gene seed of their Primarchs. The 9th Legion, as they were known in the early days of this time period, were dubbed the Revenant Legion. They were a brutal instrument of destruction, clad in gray and black power armor, unleashed upon the battlefield, where their savage practices in warfare often led to a swift, if not incredibly bloody, victory. Further, the chapter had begun engaging in barbaric rituals of bloodletting and cannibalism that would lead to distrust and outright hatred from their brother legions. One such ritual included the consumption of deceased leaders by feasting on their flesh, gaining their memories and abilities. The Legion faced complete expulsion from the Imperium of Man if they did not adapt their barbaric practices. Eventually, the host of the Revenant Legion were reunited with their Primarch Sanguinius. The two could not be more polar opposites of the other. the Revenant Legion, who fought with such brutality as to be regarded as little more than power-armored savages by their fellow Space Marines, and Sanguinius, the very embodiment of nobility and beauty. Sanguinius set about the task of changing the Revenant Legion, renaming them the Blood Angels. Sanguinius was all too familiar with the flaw within his legionnaires, as it was one he himself fought within. This flaw would present itself in two ways. First, in the form of the Red Thirst, which was the propensity for their Marines to engage in both the devouring of flesh and the drinking of blood of their enemies, which would re-energize and reinvigorate them, giving them a rush of strength and increasing their own longevity. Eventually, if gone unchecked, the Red Thirst could lead to consumption by what is often referred to as the Black Rage, a complete loss of sensory and mindfulness. In the post-heresy era, this would often manifest as the Marine constantly reliving the anguish and battle between Sanguinius and his brother, the traitor Horus, when Sanguinius was destroyed by the arch-traitor. Sanguinius knew this flaw existed amongst his sons, and as such, he engaged his Marines to channel their fury into the arts, crafting ornate and beautiful sculptures, architecture, paintings, and writings. The Blood Angels would channel this inner fury into creative endeavors. As such, the image of the Blood Angels was changed from that of savage, gore-covered barbarians to Space Marines who valued beauty, honor, and nobility. Sanguinius was successful in this transformation of his legion, fighting alongside Horus and the Luna Wolves in the early days of the Great Crusade. The Blood Angels forged many victories for the Imperium and developed a reputation as being fierce but noble and honorable warriors, becoming not only highly regarded amongst their peers, but regarded as icons of the Imperium. During the height of the 7-year war known as the Horus Heresy, the Imperium was split in half after the now traitor Wordbearer's chaplain, Erebus, unleashed a warp storm to isolate the worlds of the eastern fringe of the galaxy, notably the worlds of the Ultramar system, home to the Primarch Rubute Guilliman and his Ultramarines. This event was called the Ruin Storm. Many of the Loyalist legions would escape from the Ruin Storm into the worlds of Ultramar, but due to the nature of the Ruin Storm, were cut off from the larger Imperium and Terra. Fearing that the Imperium and Terra may have fallen, Guilliman orchestrated the rise of another government, Imperium Secundus, of which he declared Sanguinius to be the leader and emperor of the newly formed Imperium. Sanguinius, among his many gifts, possessed the gift of foresight, however, and through visions he saw that indeed Terra still stood, and their father, the Emperor of Mankind, lived. However, the traitors were on their way to Terra to attack the Imperial homeworld. Imperium Secundus was then disbanded, and Sanguinius and his forces of Blood Angels left the Ultramar system en route to Terra. Now, the events of the Siege of Terra are extensive and could take hours to cover. When Horus and his combined forces of traitor legions attacked Terra, Sanguinius and the Blood Angels, along with the Imperial Fists, were chief among those Space Marine forces that battled to repel the traitor invasion. During the siege, Sanguinius performed incredible feats of heroism, leading the forces of the Imperium on the ground and acting as a symbol of hope against impossible odds. Eventually, the Emperor of Mankind would lead an elite contingent force to Horus's ship, the Vengeful Spirit, to confront the arch-traitor. Despite knowing ultimately that death awaited him at Horus's hands due to his precognitive powers, Sanguinius insisted on being part of the attack on Horus's ship. And as history would document, Sanguinius did indeed fall to Horus, but not before inflicting a mortal wound which the Emperor would take advantage of in their own confrontation. The Emperor would ultimately destroy Horus, and this was due largely in part to the sacrifice of Sanguinius. Today, Sanguinius is often depicted in imperial iconography and imagery as an iconic hero of the Imperium of Man, his legacy forged in the annals of imperial history. Today, the Blood Angels call the planet of Baal their homeworld. From their fortress monastery located on the rust-colored planet, the Arx Angelicum, the Blood Angels launch campaigns across the galaxy, battling against the various enemies of mankind and the Imperium. The planet Baal is orbited by two moons, Baal Primus and Baal Secundus, the radiation-soaked moon that served as the original home of Sanguinius. Although the planet of Baal itself is a dead world aside from the Blood Angels, the chapter draws its recruits primarily from the ranks of the population of its moons. Potential recruits must embark on an incredibly dangerous quest to Angel's Fall on Baal Secundus across the radiation-soaked deserts of the moon. This journey alone is so arduous that most potential recruits die before reaching the city, known and named after the place where Sanguinius landed on the moon. Recruits are then taken through the process to become Astartes, through a series of further tests, many of which being lethal, until they have proven themselves worthy of undergoing the process to become a Space Marine. Those lucky enough to survive are sealed away to undergo the apotheosis, where their genes are infused with those of the Primarch Sanguinius to become Space Marines. The Blood Angels continue to honor the legacy of Sanguinius as one of the most noble and honorable chapters of Space Marines in the Imperium. They hold faithfully to the 5 angelic graces to honor their Primarch: honor, humility, mercy, restraint, and forgiveness. Although the chapter is mostly compliant with the Codex Astartes in terms of its chapter organization and leadership structure, they prefer swift and mobile close combat assaults when engaged in war, and often deploy more jump pack equipped infantry than their other Space Marine counterparts. Their sanguinary priests and librarians search relentlessly to discover a cure for their gene curse flaw. Among them includes Chief Librarian Mephiston, the only known Space Marine to fall victim to and overcome the Black Rage. Those Astartes who fall victim to the Black Rage are inducted into the Death Company and unleashed on fronts of war to attack the enemy, channeling their inner rage in a near blind berserk fury intended to shock the enemy into swift defeat. The final outcome of a Marine fallen prey to the Black Rage is death, either at the hands of the enemy or by the blade of the High Chaplain Astaroth. Those Marines who fall prey to the Black Rage on Baal are locked away in the Tower of Amario on Baal, chained and restrained while their maddening screams echo through the tower. Those Marines who have succumbed to the Black Rage are forever locked in a state, reliving the moment when Sanguinius battled Horus. From their perspective, they are Sanguinius and must face off against the arch-traitor, their minds lost hopelessly to this state of being. Although some maintain some measure of lucidity, such as the chaplain Lamartes, the sanguinary priests record their visions, searching for any bits of information or clues to help them cure this consuming rage. The flaws of the Red Thirst and the Black Rage are kept hidden from the prying eyes of the larger Imperium, and very few outside of the chapter know of the dark curse on this otherwise noble chapter. Today, the Blood Angels are led by their chapter master, Commander Dante. Dante is highly regarded as a legend in his own right, being one of the oldest Space Marines in history. Dante has led the Blood Angels for over 1,000 years. Even at the brink of their own chapter's destruction, he is revered as an icon among the Imperium and even among the other chapters of Space Marines. So much so that in engagements with other Space Marine chapters, most of the other Space Marine leaders elect to serve under his command in theater. He has led notable campaigns such as the Battle for Armageddon against the Orcs and the Great Waaagh of the Orc warlord Ghazghkull Thraka. During the attack on the High City Acheron, Dante led the reinforcements against the Orcs via drop-pod assault, swiftly killing over half of the Orcs, who then fled into the wastes beyond the city. During the end of the 41st millennium, the system of Baal was attacked by the Tyranid High Fleet Leviathan. The High Fleet ripped through the system and its neighbors on the way to Baal with the goal to eradicate the Blood Angels entirely. Dante called for the aid of all his successor chapter brothers. Those other chapters also spawned from the gene seed of Sanguinius. Those chapters that answered the call included the Flesh Terrors, Angels in Carmine, and the Knights of Blood, among many others. This conflict would become known as the Devastation of Baal. It was during this battle that the fortress monastery itself was attacked by the near-endless swarms of Tyranids. Dante fought on the front lines, defending the fortress, engaging in battle with the massive Swarm Lord, whom he destroyed, but not without suffering a grievous wound in the process. As he lay dying, welcoming the reprieve of death after a life long lived, he held a vision of Sanguinius, who informed him his duty to the Imperium was not done. The Tyranids were eventually repelled thanks to the efforts of the Blood Angels, and the arrival of the Primarch Rebute Guilliman and his Primaris reinforcements, as well as the opening of the Great Rift, which sent a psychic burst of energy into the system. Guilliman would bestow the title of Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilis to Commander Dante, granting him command authority over the portion of the Imperium now cut off from Terra due to the Great Rift. Although the Blood Angels sustained terrible losses during the invasion of the High Fleet Leviathan, they were reinforced by the addition of the newly formed Primaris Marines in an effort to replenish their ranks. Originally, it was believed that these new Primaris Marines may be immune to the terrible curse of the Gene Seed. However, it was discovered later that they too would fall victim to the Red Thirst and the Black Rage. The Blood Angels stand as a beacon of hope and light in an otherwise bleak and grim universe. Their tireless efforts to thwart the enemies of mankind stand as unmatched as their loyalty and devotion to the Emperor and the legacy of their Primarch Sanguinius. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, please take a moment to drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified and follow along for future videos as I explore the universe of Warhammer. Thanks again, and until next time, for the Emperor.